Hello. Um, so I thought I would show you how I make my coffee. I have a cheap coffee machine. It's called a Cafe Roma by Breville. It's their base model. I think brand new you can buy it for like 240 Canadian. Believe it or not, I bought it used for $10. I found it on I bought it off some guy on Craigslist. He was just, I think he got it handed to him by somebody else and wanted to just get rid of it, and I ended up getting it for $10. And I think people often think that espresso is a very fancy drink, and I mean, compared to the other types of coffee, I guess it is in the sense that it requires a bit more technique and skill and things like that. But and often people think this machines have to be super expensive to make a good espresso drink, and it is true also. But as you'll see, even with a cheap used $10 machine, I can make a decent cup of espresso, sorry. But what you can't skimp out on is the grinder. So the grinder has to be able to grind fine enough. Oh, I just had a spill. Be able to grind fine enough to be able to have the proper pressure in your espresso machine. If it's too coarse, the water just runs through it and you get a really kind of sour, not very good cup of coffee. So the grinder has to be a decent burr grinder, and it has to be designed so you can grind fine enough for espresso. So I got this, I think it's a Nuevo Eureka. It's maybe 6-7 years old. I bought it used on Craigslist for something like $240. I know Breville sells a decent grinder new for maybe $250. I haven't used it myself, so I don't know how good it is, but there are some cheaper options out there. But yeah, you want a decent grinder. I had this one before, and I was trying to use it for espresso, and it just wouldn't grind it fine nor consistent enough. So that's one thing you can't skimp out on. And of course, good beans and a bit of technique and luck, and you're in good shape. So here we go. First, I'm going to turn this machine on. It takes a minute or so to heat up to temperature. This one uses a newer technology compared to some other machines. I think the traditional one was like a boiler. There'd literally be like I don't know, like a 12 or 16 ounce boiler in the machine that would heat the water to temperature. And that's the water you would use for your steaming and for your espresso. Whereas these ones, they use something called a thermal block. I think there's like a coil that the water runs through, and that's what heats it up. So it's a bit quicker, a bit different technology. I don't know exactly how it works, but that's what this one uses. So first things first. And again, I'm not an expert in espresso. I haven't worked at a coffee shop or anything, but these are some of the things that I've kind of picked up over the last couple of years since I've got my machine. So a double shot of espresso is anywhere from 17 to 20 ounces, I believe. This machine, I have it set up to grind exactly that much. So I'll just get it going. So I got everything ground in here. I shake it up a bit. Here's my tamper. I like to tamp it a little bit first, clean up the edges, give it a tap, and then you want to put maybe, I think, about 20 pounds of pressure, which is a pretty firm amount, pretty strong amount. So you kind of get your elbow up to get it directly above the portafilter, and then you just push down. And then you kind of give it a quarter turn at the end. And you know you did a good job if it's nice and flat and you don't see any kind of like pores in your puck. So I'm just going to do one more quick tamp. With a bit of a turn. I think we're good to go. So I'll get that in. Lock it in place. I like to steam my milk first. So the heating element's good to go, the light's off, and then I'll get my steam going. So because this is a cheaper machine, the steam doesn't come out very strong, so I have to get it going first. So I turn on the steam, then I'll get my milk ready. I use oat milk. I think I'm slightly lactose intolerant, so I've started drinking oat milk recently. This is a really good brand. It's made in Vancouver by Earth's Own, and it's a barista blend of oat milk. So if you're using any alternative milks, try to get the barista version of it, because it will steam a lot better and it'll taste a lot better with coffee. I like oat milk. Some people like almond milk. I just think oats and coffee pair fairly well together. So I really want to get this going. I don't want any, I mean, it's still going to be wet steam because it's cheap, but, and as you'll see, it doesn't get it quite hot enough, but for 10 bucks, I can't complain. So I'm making something like a flat white, which is about, it's a double shot of espresso with, I think, 4 ounces of milk. So I poured about 4 ounces of milk in there. And now that my steam's going, turn it off. My cup's heated at the same time. And then I'll get it going. So a couple things with this. You want to get your spout just above the surface, and so you can incorporate air. And then after you incorporate enough air, then you stick it in a little bit more. Try to show you. If you incorporate too much air, your milk will be too frothy. I don't know if you can hear me or not. So you don't want to get these big bubbles. That means my nozzle was too high up. But as you can see, it draws it down and in. And you're kind of getting that cyclone action going, where it's incorporating the air into the whole, into the entire pitcher. So I'm looking for about a 50% gain in volume, and once it starts heating up, I stick it in a bit more. And you can see it's twirling around, and you want to get your milk up to a point where you can just hold your hand for a couple seconds. You don't want to overheat it. If you do, your milk will start to break down and you will get a different kind of burned flavor. You won't get that sweetness that comes from the heating up of the milk. Okay, so my steamed milk is ready. Pour out the water from my cup, and I'm looking for about a 30 to 35 second pull. So I don't know if you can see this. Hope you can. So it's starting, and I'm gonna count to 30 in my head. And then as the coffee starts to become blonde, or like a kind of lighter brown yellow color, you know you're getting close to getting full extraction. You don't want to go past that, because then you start getting different, more like sour, stringent flavors. So that's about a double shot. So you can see that's about 2 ounces. I've done this enough to know that's about the right amount. So I got my steamed milk. I swirl it around a bit to get some of the air incorporated and get rid of those big bubbles. Tap it a few times, and this is looking actually pretty good. We'll see how it turns out, but you want that kind of glossy, silky texture to your milk, kind of like wet paint almost. So here we go. I'm not very good at latte art, but I'll try to do something. Start off high, then kind of come down. And nope, not much. It's also the machine doesn't texture the milk very well. But there you go. The poor man's espresso. A lot cheaper than going to a cafe. Very good. I don't think I have the bag of beans, but I used a bean from Salt Spring. It's called Salt Spring Island coffee. This is their Indonesian Sumatra blend. Hope you like it. Try it out.